What's up, everybody? Vote for Holt here with another top 10.
Ahoy there! Is how you should have started that video.
Oh, my most sincere apologies.
Today we are going to be taking a look at 10 Nancy Drew games that, while are not all bad games, we personally feel are overdue or at least in need of a remake.
What makes this list a little, compelling, though, is that there has been a remastered game. That
exactly
would be
one.
Game number 1, Secrets Can Kill, was then remastered to be game 17.5? Or was it 16.5?
I think it might have been...
Either way, they remastered the game with an updated engine, and it was just a lot more...
I think
it just felt a little better.
I think it was game 22.5, actually. Now, see, you're right that they gave the game a new engine. It's actually one of my favorite Nancy Drew engines, the one from game 16 and up, I believe.
Yeah.
But the really interesting thing about it is that they did not just give the game a new engine, but they gave us a new suspect, and they re-recorded all the characters' dialogue, I believe.
Yeah.
And all sorts of other interesting stuff. New puzzles, new events in the game, and on the whole, it made for a very interesting what-if question.
Mm-hmm.
What if we were to give this treatment to other Nancy Drew games that had potential and may have missed the mark in some places?
Now, one thing we do want to stress before getting into this list is we are not in any way saying these games are bad, and thus that's why they need a remake. Some of these are just our favorite games that we would love to see updated on just better graphics and just add a few more things.
Other games are terrible.
Yeah,
respectfully.
There are a few games that are stinkers on here that we just need different remakes for. But we don't want to offend anybody by saying, this game sucks and that's why we need a remake.
So keep in mind, this is our opinions. I'm pretty sure that we're all going to be able to agree on some of the top 3 at least.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, feel free to comment down below anything that we might have missed, anything you think we got wrong, because I'm always down to keep the conversation going. And the conversation never does stop when it comes to Nancy Drew.
Mm-hmm.
Join our Discord if you enjoy chatting Nancy Drew, because that is all we do. Anyways, number 10, I think I'll let Julian take this, as it's his area of expertise.
Of course. Number 10 on our list, ironically, my favorite Nancy Drew game. We have case number 5, The Final Scene. Now, Final Scene doesn't really do anything wrong, in my biased opinion. But it is on this list because, thinking about it through a more modern day kind of game light, there's a few things that could have flushed it out a little better or just made it a lot more interesting. Now, one of those things I think would be bringing Lieutenant Mac Ramsey into the game as an interactable character as each day progresses. One of my least favorite parts about Final Scene is the horrible 5 to 10 minute phone calls that you have with this man where you can't even click on anything, you just call him.
It's like a cutscene.
You just call him and you can go order a pizza for the next 10 minutes and come back and you'll still be in the conversation.
There's a lot of the game that relies on phone calls, including some subplots that are optional.
Yeah.
But still.
So that is one thing that I think needs to be addressed, is bringing that man into the theater themselves. I doubt he would highlight much of a suspect role, but they could do that. They could try to explore that path as the negligent police officer. That would be kind of interesting. And then otherwise, I think updated graphics, because the Palladium Theater is just very beautiful. I think it would be amazing on can you imagine it on Sea of Darkness level graphics?
Can I tag in real quick? And I want to say something about this. Final Scene is a fantastic game, and everyone who's played it knows that. But I feel like being number 5 in the series hurts its ability to be played, because there's a lot of people who are probably on the fence about joining the Nancy Drew community and playing the Nancy Drew games who aren't particularly interested in games with 2001 graphics, and that's totally understandable. And I feel like it's such a shame, because this game has one of the most compelling stories and insane endings to any Nancy Drew game, and I feel like it just gatekeeps too many people away by having outdated graphics. So really, I wouldn't complain if they kept everything about this game the same, but just hauled the graphics and mechanics to be more to modern tastes. If I was in control, things that I would want to see change about this game, I think we owe it to the player to get to leave the theater at least once. Even though, Maya is supposedly trapped there. Nicholas Falcone has a van that we hear about that we never get to go see. The press conference is a very cool event that we never witness happen, but we do get to hear it. But we could be outside for that stuff. And we could also go to the police station in person at the end of day 1. We could go to the Historical Society on day 2 and meet Sherman Trout, maybe solve some puzzles there.
I think those are a little bit too ambitious, because you need to be staying in the theater for Final Scene.
I think I might have it. I could compromise. What if this is a Bess game, where Nancy can call Bess and have her look into the Historical Society? That way that Nancy gets to stay at the Palladium and have an established presence.
Well, we could speculate about this all day.
I think that this game deserves to be a Bess game more than other Bess games, respectfully, but...
I don't know, maybe. I think so, and you could make it like more chilling with like more like captive like narration over the PA and stuff. And
Yeah, there's a lot of things this game did great, and it just makes me think of what could have been done on a bigger budget with a longer game. Because this is a short game too.
Yeah, it is a short game.
Moving on to number 9 on this list now, we have a game that I think is the exact embodiment of missed potential in this franchise, and that is game number 30, The Shattered Medallion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's be clear, this is an unrealistic pick. A game that came out on the newest engine, or second newest engine, the best engine, is not going to get a remake for another, like, 15 to 20 years.
Yeah, but we didn't want to just pick games 1 through 10 for this list. That feels like a cop-out.
Yeah, this is kind of like games that deserve a fair shake at being fixed, because this game has a lot of stuff wrong with it. The Sunny June game was like, in no uncertain terms, the Avengers Infinity War of the Nancy Drew series. Sunny June had been foreshadowed all the way since game 6 in the series, and we didn't get to meet him in person till game 30. The hype was huge, and the letdown was devastating. Sunny is a cool character, but he ultimately has this weird niche alien plot that doesn't evolve into anything. And ultimately, I think another huge thing that this game missed was the replay factor. The puzzles in this game are weak, they should be much harder, there should be more of them for a game show centered around solving puzzles and challenges. And most importantly, I've always said this, I think this game could have been a top 5 pick in the Nancy Drew community if they implemented alternate endings where Nancy does not compete well enough on the game show.
You know, here's my hot take for this game. I think if in a remake, you scrap every single character besides Sunny June.
Really?
Yes.
You would replace them or just make it a Sunny only game?
No, replace them all.
Okay, that's also
I
true.
think they were all extremely weak in this game.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, no, I can't even remember all their names. I remember Patrick, you know?
I
Like,
think there was a Kiri and a Lena.
yeah.
Or maybe it was a Lena.
I remember Kiri. Like, none of them are memorable. They're all so bland, and they're supposed to be, like, competitors on this, like, almost Survivor-like island.
They are. They're just such weird people the way they act. I think George and Bess being there was a good idea. They got a little shine to the game, that's for sure. But
everyone else was really just bad. I think you just, like, don't even keep the names, just do different characters.
Precisely. Patrick was a little funny, but his whole character arc was he sinks because he can't swim.
Yeah.
The culprit made no sense.
Yeah.
The crime was bogus.
Yeah, the ending was really flat.
I think they should have just said screw it and given us a Sunny June culprit. I think that would have been awesome.
Oh, and another thing that I just kind of thought was like so like funny and stupid about this was like the game show starts with like what 15 contestants and you don't see anybody.
That's right.
You just see like camps and everything. It should be like a base camp with like, you know, NPCs that you don't even have to talk to. You don't even have to talk to these people.
But for a closing remark on Shattered Medallion, above anything else, I really do think this was the game that deserved to have alternate endings. Can you imagine how fun a completionist playthrough of this game would be, where you have to solve basically every puzzle on a time limit, and also maybe have like extra difficult puzzles on like Senior Detective that will also have like a bigger payoff in the end. Because no matter how you play the game, it always ends with this bogus tie clutch race for Nancy to get the last medallion piece. She always wins. It's a game over if she comes in second place. That's dumb. We should have had alternate endings. Moving on now to number 8, I have a comment that I instantly want to say about this game, tying back into number 9. This is going to be a real meme, but our number 8 pick is Nancy Drew number 33, Midnight in Salem.
Yeah, the most recent Nancy Drew game. Can you imagine how funny it'd be if it was like game number 33, Midnight in Salem, game number 34, remastered, Midnight in Salem?
It could happen, honestly. I could see that happening,
No,
like a Midnight in Salem patch.
So, well, no, that's an interesting idea, but this game just was not polished in the slightest. It wasn't that fun. I don't call it the worst Nancy Drew game.
Me neither, and a lot of people do.
Yeah, but there needs to be work done.
Now, imagine this. Imagine if game 30 was Midnight in Salem made on the Shattered Medallion engine, and game number 31 was Shattered Medallion made on the Midnight in Salem engine. Then you could have had all your background extra contestants. You could have had a new fun Nancy Drew adventure.
That's true.
I think that could have been a much better fit for each of those games.
This isn't a video to nitpick like flaws in these games. It's just want to see what we would like to see from a remaster. I think you just need to like scrap the entire first part though.
Okay, that's
in
true.
The castle, Like, that just didn't fit at all thematically.
There is a lot to like in Midnight in Salem, and then so much fat to trim.
Also, in a remake, you need to fix some of the lip syncing for their voices. That was always a really big complaint in this game. You need to put a little more polish and effort into the NPCs in the town. Maybe don't have Deidre stalk you maniacally.
I thought it was a cool mechanic that sometimes you have characters who follow you around. They did not do it well by making the characters look as uncanny as hell.
I know, that's why I'm
scary.
saying just polish it up. Like,
give Deirdre sunglasses if you need.
yeah.
So anyways,
Oh, and add more puzzles too.
Yes,
like
okay.
That's where it was severely lacking.
the biggest problem with Midnight in Salem is that it has no replayability. Because this game has 5 puzzles at most.
Yeah.
And literally only one of them is like a decent puzzle. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I would call that the isodecahedron or the security camera footage or whatever. It's just a very falls on its face flat game for puzzles. And it's so disappointing because you look at some parts of the game where they put in so much effort into shit that didn't matter. Mm-hmm. The game begins with like a 20-minute segment that's like a tutorial for if you've never played a Nancy Drew game in Mozam Castle. Why is Nancy in Austria in the game that pertains to Salem, Massachusetts? No idea. Why did they hire and include a fully fledged voice lines for a phone contact who Nancy meets at the beginning of the game? No idea. This whole book of apologies getting stolen is bogus. Nancy getting the call from Deirdre saying, I need you to leave Austria and come to the States right now is bogus.
Yeah.
There was so much place in this game where if they just focused on making more puzzles, making better suspects, making a better soundtrack, this game would have been so much more well-received.
Yeah, so just to conclude, I think scrap all the resources that were put into that first castle sequence, and then polish things up a lot more and add puzzles. Maybe even add another haunting or two. Make the game feel a little eerie.
And of course, before we move on, we cannot talk about Midnight in Salem Remake without addressing how bad this ending was.
Yeah, I know. The ending just needs to change entirely. Make it a different culprit.
We could do with a new culprit for sure, but the execution was the worst part. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of really cool, intense puzzles and shit in the underground maze of Salem and all that, switching back and forth between different characters. Remind me, we got to play as Deirdre in this game, didn't we? For a little bit.
Briefly.
So adds her to the list of characters Nancy can play as. I forgot about that. But once the ending is done, there is a 10-minute unskippable conversation that is grueling. It is so bad.
Skip that altogether.
Moving on now to number 7, a game that I personally like, but damn does it need a revisiting.
Yeah, I think Jamie thinks that a little bit more than me, but Creature of Kapu Cave is our pick for number 7, ladies and gentlemen. I have some qualms with this game. It was never one of my favorites, but when it comes to remastering it, it's a little difficult to envision what more you can do, because I think you need to have Nancy eventually come back to Big On mics, but what is your take here?
The biggest problem with this game is that after the beginning, Nancy gets sent to the jungle, and Joe and Frank... Sorry, it's so weird saying Joe and Frank. That's like saying Josh and Drake, my bad. Frank and Joe end up at Big Island Mics for the whole game. So you have this big division that you can only bridge through the phone. Everything at Frank and Joe's is so much more interesting than everything at Nancy's, I feel. Mm-hmm. And there's some exceptions. Some cool things happen in the later game at the HThe facility. But by and large, it feels like the game is just water and oil. It's too separate.
You know what? I do have something that desperately needs to remaster. What is the creature? Where they show the cutscene is the only thing at the start of the game, and then it's dropped.
No, because, I mean, brief spoiler territory. There is no creature. It's just Malachi Craven going goblin mode.
But there needs to be more.
There does need to be more. There should be a whole bunch of more stuff.
They just drop it completely from the first thing, from the first cutscene of like the camp getting thrown
everything. It's such a bait and switch. The game is called The Creature of Kapu Cave.
I know.
That would be like if the Labyrinth of Lies didn't have a labyrinth. Oh wait. That'd be like if Legend of the Crystal Skull never had a crystal skull in it.
No, I don't know. I think for a game with that title, they need to capitalize on that a lot more.
Or just change it all together and give it a new focus. I think this game desperately needed more locations. Compare this game to Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon, a game that included the Hardy Boys and came 2 years before it, I think. Or maybe not 2 years, but it came several games before it. Oh my gosh, Last Train is so much better than Kapu Cave, and Last Train is confined to a single train car the full game. We have the whole island of Honolulu, I think, for this game. I'm not sure which island it's on, but there's so much you can do, and it's all confined to boring stuff. Nothing in Big Island Mike's museum of little, like, cool Hawaiian factoids ever comes up for anything important. You might use it to, like, solve some of the totem puzzles when you're snorkeling later. We've talked about this before. This game also needed a day and night cycle.
Yes,
instead of lasting in one day.
That was a big complaint we had.
Can you imagine if it was like a Shadow Ranch structure, where there's night 1, night 2, night 3, you get like a cutscene, there should be a surfing challenge of Frank and Joe surfing.
And then if it's nighttime in the jungle with Nancy, that's perfect for more haunting opportunities.
Yes.
With the creature.
That's it. That is how you make Nancy's side of the game more interesting. Nancy camping in a dilapidated tent at Quigley's camp and hearing weird noises at night.
Yeah.
That shit would be terrifying. That would balance out the games. Frank and Joe is the fun stuff. Nancy is the suspenseful stuff.
There we go. We just thought of how this game could be so much better on the fly.
That is how you fix Kapu Cave.
I agree.
As far as the ending, I don't think the ending is terrible. I just think it's bogus how it's designed.
A bit.
I would be okay with the same culprit reveal, but I think that they did a bad job of sprinkling around foreshadowing, and maybe this game could do with a 5th suspect to help throw in some red herrings. Otherwise, I think that's what we've got for Kapu Cave.
All right, moving on to case number 20. 6th on our list, Ransom of the 7 Ships, ladies and gentlemen.
You knew it had to be somewhere.
Yeah, it did have to be here.
Let's go ahead and say...
Yeah, there's multiple areas we could tackle for a Ransom remake.
Graphically, Ransom is just fine.
Yeah, it is.
There's nothing wrong with the graphics.
So I think it's kind of difficult because it's changing like a core value of the game, but having one suspect is unacceptable.
It really
for an
is.
Nancy Drew game. But we need to get creative in thinking of a natural way for more people to be on the beach and how they can't be immediately suspicious too.
I know some.
Okay, let's hear it.
Nancy can get in the sailboat and find a fishing charter somewhere off the place where she meets maybe a fisherman who is off on his own and doing fisher stuff. Maybe there's a language barrier. A language barrier would be an excellent way of not immediately getting him to call the police. That could be a really interesting way to write a character. For one thing, we're going to go ahead and jump right into spoilers for this game, okay? We cannot talk about a remake of Ransom of the 7 Ships without getting into the nastiest of Nancy Drew spoilers. The one suspect in this game is the culprit from game number 2 with a vendetta coming back to foil Nancy Drew.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
I liked it too. But I think it would be more impactful if it wasn't so obvious that he was the culprit, even if his true identity isn't known off the rip.
Exactly.
So this kind of segues into something I would love for this game. There is one scene, only one in this game, where Nancy's looking with a telescope off to the island, and she sees like glinting from
There's 2 scenes that are like what you're describing. I think you're combining them. The first is when Nancy gives the ball to the sea monkeys and she looks through the telescope at, no, there's 2 ways to do it. She sees the glint of a binocular scope in the distance, so she knows someone's looking at her. And then again, when she's on that secret little island off the coast,
and she sees someone walking, right?
She sees rustling through the trees, too big to be a monkey.
Yeah.
Those are eerie moments. And what the game ends up telling you at the end is that those are the, quote, other kidnappers. Excuse me? There's other people on this island who we never see or know?
Yeah. So, in a remake, what I'm saying is they need to capitalize more on that, like, creepy, okay, my friend's been kidnapped on this island. I don't have anyone here looking out for me. I need to be, like, cautious.
Ooh, I got it!
That was never something in this game.
I got it. I figured out the easiest, most simple way to make this game work with more suspects. There should be more people on the beach with Nancy who come in from the plane. Other blind tourists who are coming in. And maybe they're not blind. Maybe one of them is in on it. The game could instead be that it's a whole bunch of people being held hostage on their vacation that they were being sent to blind. So Nancy could be there with a bunch of other random tourists, and then we could just have a couple characters like Johnny the Beach Bum and a fisherman who go in to throw red herrings. I think that could be a great way to do it.
I can see that.
And so if you combine it with that, then there is possibility for there to be an inside job. One of the tourists is a suspect. Mm-hmm. That could be great. Your base camp could be the Dread Eye Resort. You go there and there's like 4 different suspects. I think that'd be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And gosh, what else is there to say? Okay, here's a little realm of controversy that Julian and I were arguing about before this. Julian is against, I am in favor of this. I think that it should not have just been Dwayne Powers.
No, that is, yeah.
This should have been a coalition of some of the most iconic culprits getting paroled from games 1 through 19 and uniting to take down Nancy.
Then at some point you would be able to tell that's going on, and that's just too much like a Scooby-Doo.
Oh, but it's so cool.
No, I think that's dumb.
I think it's cool.
It's
Come
dumb.
on. If you're gonna do one, why not do more?
It takes away from like Dwayne Powers.
Dwayne Powers being the ringleader is cool enough because he's the first one that Nancy really wronged.
L plus ratio.
Mitch Dillon doesn't exist. Comment down below who you agree with, because I think it would be cool to see more past villains come back.
I like your tourist idea so much better.
Okay, the tourist idea is good, but you could still have past culprits revealed in the end to be helping with the kidnapping.
Yeah.
I don't know. Comment down below which one is right on that take. It should also be noted, before we move on from some of the subships, this game is no longer available for digital download on Her Interactive's website. We are not going to get into why that is, it's a whole other can of worms, but just by virtue of the game not being purchasable in its current form, this game needs a revisiting to correct those mistakes, and also make the game more palatable in general. Moving on to number 5 now.
So, number 5 on our list, we have one Jamie feels very passionate about.
One of my all-time favorites. Love the game, but it needs work.
Curse of Blackmore Manor.
This was something of an experimental game. Game number 11. Graphics, for games
Graphics are fine. I don't think we need to talk about graphics because it's
one realm.
In a remaster, the graphics are obviously going to be better.
Yes, but there's one specific thing that needs to be changed. You know what it is.
Yeah, Jane's body.
Yes, Jane is twig thin. She looks malnourished. She looks like Oliver Twist from Oliver Twist, okay?
Yes. But what I think would be the best thing for Blackmore is adding another suspect, or at the very least giving Ethel more of a spotlight as a suspect, like giving her own like tutor lounge or something like that. I think that's what is needed.
It could be a second floor to the library.
Yeah, sure. But also I know Jamie loves the idea of being able to explore outside, something that we never get to do somehow.
Okay, so my appetite to explore the moors of Blackmore Manor has always been satiated just enough by the fact that we get a cool greenhouse, and we do get some vegetation and plant life in the game. But there should still be an outdoor garden we can go see. I think that'd be great. And likewise, I think that it's especially bullshit because we can see the outside of the manor in the opening cutscene. And it's a very cool place. We see the front yard and have that slow walking up to the porch. Why does Nancy never go to investigate the bushes where she saw some red-eyed demon monster looking at her?
Yeah,
That's garbage.
That is poor detective work, Miss Drew.
That is completely like a plot hole why Nancy would not do that. That's like if Nancy didn't examine the Clegg light that fell and nearly killed her in the final scene.
Now, there's also a few minor tweaks I would do. Like, I would try to make Nigel a more suspicious character.
And also a better character.
Yeah, also a better character, because he comes off as very flat in this game.
He's mainly played for comedic relief, I think.
You know what? Actually, you can just take Nigel out of the game and add a new character in. Well, I thought of one more thing. I think we need to see Linda once, even if it's on an accident, like walking in like into her room or something, and we see a glimpse at her arm or something. That would scare the player. They'd be like, okay, what the fuck is going on?
A glimpse. Okay, there's moments where you get to see Linda. If I'm gonna be totally honest, I think that having Linda be just a voice actress works very well. But the thing is, by sparing character animation in that way, we are entitled to a fifth suspect. Ethel doesn't count. Ethel has a full character model, but only like 3 appearances in the whole game, 2 of which I think are optional. So, yeah, I think Ethel's a great character. I think it's still eerie if Ethel hovers and does not have a set place to be.
Yeah, she does.
People forget that Ethel is almost always in Jane's room tutoring her. And you can hear them talk. It's not like she's super mysterious.
And you can keep Ethel's jump scares too. I just think she needs to be a little bit more of a suspect.
I think, she can definitely is more of a suspect. But I do think that this game needs a 5th suspect if we're going to go ahead and save some money by having Linda, not be present. And, the easy answer is Hugh Penvillin. But I don't know. Because he was a diplomat, so it makes sense for him to be away. Oh gosh, Blackmore Manor, I love this game. I think the difficulty is great. I wouldn't change a single puzzle in this game in a remake. I think they are phenomenal and perfect difficulty. I just think it needs a little more content and a breath of fresh air.
Moving on to number 4 on our list, we have case number 6, Secret of the Scarlet Hand.
All right, this is gonna be an interesting.
So this was one that Jamie and I were like, yeah, this needs to be on the list. Like one of the first ones we said, because Scarlet Hand, it has a lot of highs and some pretty low lows. The lows being everything not pertaining to the museum.
There is an integral error in this game.
Well, yeah, another low being the story.
Yes, this game on a blind playthrough, you will not have a story for a full hour or more.
Yeah.
The game...
It needs rewriting.
The game becomes a mystery once the theft happens at Beach Hill Museum. That doesn't happen until you finish off everything on the task list. Mm-hmm. And so in the meantime, you're actually just being a museum curator for potential hours of gameplay.
Yeah.
And it so does not hit.
So I think this is going to be a different case, different from the other previously 6 mentioned games where we rewrite the beginning of the game.
And maybe even further parts of the game.
Yeah.
I think that Taylor Sinclair is a great suspect. I think that Joanna and Henrik are great suspects too.
Wait,
Alejandro needs help.
Yeah, Alejandro's not a good suspect, but how do you rewrite the beginning of the game?
How do I rewrite the beginning of this game? The theft happens and Prudence Rutherford hires Nancy to fix it. Nancy should not just be the curator to this museum and then work for a couple of days before something mystery-like happens. It always makes more sense. This isn't the first game. Nancy has solved 5 mysteries before this one.
Yeah.
It makes sense that people have heard of her. She should be hired to solve the mystery once it has already begun.
That's fair.
Besides, what the hell does Nancy need an internship for? We never hear anything about Nancy's schooling. This is an internship, right? Because I highly doubt Nancy just decided, I'm going to go be a curator at a museum doing Mayan culture in Washington, D.C. for the summer. Mm-hmm. It's such a... honestly, I was going to say it's such a bogus plot, but it's actually so original that it's like, kudos to you, Interactive. I would not have thought of that.
But it's original in a bad way.
Kind of, yeah.
So I'm down with that rewriting. We talked briefly about the characters. I think Alejandro Del Rio is pretty flat in this game. He just didn't further the plot that much. There was like a glimmer where he was like leading suspect, like, whoa, that's pretty sus over there, Alejandro. But,
yeah.
But also in alignment with Alejandro is the Mexican like consultant place. Like that place is just a single room.
Okay.
I didn't like any place outside of the museum. That goes for the hospital. That goes for Nancy's hotel. That goes for Sinclair's office too.
I've got a hot take. This is Game 6. The game before it was Game 5, the final scene. We said that you know what? No. I think that this game might need to do what the final scene did. And that is get rid of every location that's not the museum and go all in on the museum.
So all the characters work out of the museum?
Not work out there, but maybe they come to visit Nancy, or they have places that they go.
No, that wouldn't work, because you need to be able to visit suspects.
Maybe, but think about how all the other characters are somewhere in the museum.
So you're saying just like expand the museum more?
Yeah,
like,
I think I am, but...
That doesn't make enough sense, because Alejandro shouldn't be working at the museum.
You're right. I mean, we need
Sinclair can.
We need to lose... Yeah, the art dealer would have a reason to hang around there. Sinclair could always come to just, like, bang on Joanna's door. I think that Alejandro is a very wasted character because he has a very compelling motivation and that he wants to repatriate stolen art to Mexico where he says it belongs. And there's a lot of good saber rattling in this game. I will never not laugh at Taylor Sinclair's line, "Someday I will tell you the sad story called How Mexico Lost Its Sense of Humor," in response to Art Thief. Mm-hmm. On the whole, Scarlet Hand, it needs graphical remastering in a lot of ways. I mean, most of the old games do, even though the charm has grown on me. But more than anything, it needs to have a better draw, a way to draw people in when they start this game. Because really, if I was introducing someone to this series, this is one of the last games I would say they need to play.
Yeah.
What does it have? It has Sunny June, it has Prudence Rutherford, and that's about the only thing it adds as far as the legacy goes. Mm-hmm. Huge thing that comes with that being said by remastering this game, give Nancy a task list on her HUD. Not having an easily accessible task list in this game damages it so much. This is one of the #1 games that I get stumped in because I have no idea what to do to progress. Nancy gets a task list in the laboratory, but once she crosses all that off, it's like that's all there's for the whole game. Mm-hmm. She kind of has a task list on her laptop at her computer, but that hardly helps either. Oh, and her hotel room sucks. At least put Nancy up at like a fancy hotel.
with that, we will move into case number 8, number 3 on our list, the Haunted Carousel.
Haunted Carousel.
Yeah, we don't...
What can I say?
Yeah, there's just one grave thing that they do wrong here, and that's not letting us walk through the amusement park.
This game is the only Nancy Drew game at an amusement park, and it does not include an amusement park. It includes 4 locations.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to look at it. So our hope for a remaster would be expand the game a lot, make it a huge thing that we walk through, just twisting and turning through different rides, through different pathways, and then like getting to the place naturally would be a lot better than just pull up this map and click here.
Let's talk about our experience. Just Julian and I, we go to Cedar Point usually like once a year. That's the big roller coaster park in Ohio. Think about things in Cedar Point that they could have put in Captain's Cove. Imagine like a ski lift sky tram that Nancy uses to fast travel from one part of the map to the other.
Yeah.
Imagine a timed puzzle where she's stuck in the ski lift and she can't get out. Things like that.
But I think it would also, it's called the Haunted Carousel, but nothing about this game was scary.
Yeah.
I think if you take away the map and it's walking through, you open up a lot of more possibilities for creepier things that can happen. Like, you're just walking past the carousel and then it turns on. Like, stuff like that. I think there's a lot of missed opportunity when it comes to the scare factor. Because this game was at least marketed to be a little scary.
Yeah, and there should be nighttime segments of the game, too.
There should.
Nancy has an alarm clock in this game, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Can she sleep?
Who knows?
I don't think she can, because if she could, why isn't it dark out? Yeah, there's no way Nancy can sleep in this game. But, man, this game technically does operate all around the clock, but it has no nighttime screens. Imagine seeing the park lit up at night as you get to walk through and explore it. Nancy should have all sorts of cutscenes riding roller coasters and cool stuff like that. There should be puzzles on the Ferris wheel. There should be like a tunnel of love that Nancy can go through to solve puzzles in there.
Imagine a sequence where Nancy's on the Ferris wheel and it stops with her at the top. Like the power goes out,
Yeah.
and then she sees like somebody sprinting away in a path far away, like towards the carousel or something.
Yeah, okay.
There's the possibilities are endless for what you can pull off at an amusement park.
I think I've got a real big thing for this game. More so than any other game that does not have them, this game needs the Hardy Boys. Or Bess and George.
That would
or
be
all of them.
really good.
Can you imagine how cool it would be Nancy solving a mystery in an amusement park with all of her friends?
It would be amazing.
That could be like top 3 Nancy Drew games of all time.
But it's sort of in comparison is we need less phone contacts too.
Yes, that is the big problem.
Because you take 2 steps in this game and you get a phone call, and it kind of just disrupts the natural flow of how the mystery goes.
I'm assuming
So much is solved over the phone with exposition.
I am assuming that so much of this game's phone contact abuse comes from the budget issues, that the game couldn't afford to render in so many characters,
Yeah.
or couldn't find clever ways to implement the plot into more organic places. So they ended up just having to go through and, oh god, I'm sorry, this is just, thinking of the Hardy Boys and Nancy's friends in this game makes me want to make this our number 1 pick. A Haunted Carousel Remaster.
That would be a goated Nancy Drew game.
That would be insane. It doesn't even have to be Haunted Carousel Remastered. Just make another game with Nancy and her friends at a different amusement park.
Yeah.
And give it to the Hardy Boys and Bess and George. You could do like, gosh, has there ever been any like flirtation implied between Bess, George, and the Hardy Boys?
I'm sure there is deep in the Nancy Drew lore.
Yeah, something like that. This could be a really fun game in that way. Gosh, I should talk to Fiona Mon about like doing a webtoon on that. But still, this game I'm assuming had too many phone contacts because they didn't have the budget to render enough of them into as characters.
And then let us ride more rides, take away the map. Boom. Shakalaka.
This game could be so good.
Number 2 on our list.
Okay, I gotta say, before we get to number 2, this is my pick for number 1. I think this number 1 is number 1 for more of a clerical reason. But this game right here is the game that more than anything else, I want to see get DLC, okay?
Alright, Jamie, let's hear why Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake needs more.
Because there aren't any ghost dogs in it. Simply put, this game, I think
That's fair.
we had a top 10 Nancy Drew best endings list. No, we had a whole ranking series episode on the best endings list. But if we ever had the best beginnings to Nancy Drew games ranked worst to best, this is the best beginning to a Nancy Drew.
This is 100% the best beginning.
And it falls off.
But that's the last we see the Ghost Dogs until we find them, spoiler alert, in their little kennel cave later on. I think so. Jamie and I were talking extensively about this. We think, okay, if we remaster it, there's two things. We want more Ghost Dogs hauntings, but we also found a natural way to add another great suspect into this game.
Yeah,
he would be a fisherman off one of the coasts. You don't need to have him near Sally's property, but I think having one more person to talk to, just in this like secluded area I think it would make the game a lot more lively, and it would probably take some of the suspicion away from the culprit, too.
Yes, having more characters would definitely take away suspicion.
She could be the fisherman for M's Emporium.
That's true, because M sells fish and stuff.
He could be an employee for her.
Okay.
I think that's a really great way. Because M's Emporium is just a one-person shop? She has no employees?
There is also Tucker Davis. Excuse us, we're trying to manipulate our cat who is standing on the mic. Tucker Davis is a character who's mentioned about. He's like some woodsman who is Nancy's only hope of getting the tree behind her car taken care of. There's a lot of places that you could include good characters into this relatively isolated game.
Mm-hmm. Now, the Ghost Dogs haunting being the big thing, Jamie actually came up with a really good idea, which is after solving the dozen little critters puzzle at night, a scripted event happens where the dogs start howling. Maybe Nancy even sees one, but it's like a timed event where she needs to sprint back to the cabin.
Can you imagine, like, that halfway through the game is basically testing you. Have you learned the maze of the forest yet? Mm-hmm. If so, you gotta get back to that cabin in 30 seconds or less.
And you could make it really scary. Like, she could get back to the cabin and think the doors are about to come down and she needs to escape to the cellar.
Yeah, that'd be great if there's a part of the game where the dogs break into the house and Nancy has to go into the cellar by that point.
Yes, exactly. And yeah.
There's so many ways that this game could really, really benefit from more Ghost Dog attacks. Mm-hmm. And I think that was something that you should still hold as an opinion, that this game is okay to have 3 suspects so long as we get that Ghost Dogs value. Mm-hmm. But we didn't. We got the Ghost Dogs the one time.
The end game needs a bit of a rework too, at least just the culprit reveal does, I think.
Yeah. I think this is another one where, like Secrets Can Kill Remastered, it wouldn't hurt to get a new culprit. We could just add new characters. We could replace characters.
It could be the new character that we're gonna get.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it was in Secrets and Kill Remastered, and that was kind of lame. I feel like some characters could use replacement or just overhauls. Red Knot has to stay. I love Red Knot.
And Jeff Akers. Jeff Akers is integral to the plot.
Jeff Akers is a beast, too.
And you gotta keep M's Emporium. There's no deleting characters. Okay. It's just adding one.
Adding maybe a couple, then. But, man, I just really think that, Ghost Dogs and Moonlake is a game that a lot of people hate. Let's be real.
I know.
Julian and I love this game.
Yeah.
And I think that for that reason, that it was really ill-received in a lot of ways, it deserves a second chance to be made into a game that can be enjoyed by more people, because it's such a golden setting, great ambiance, fantastic music. Do not touch the music when you remake this game. You can just credit and give Kevin Mante his royalties all over again, because this music is fire. This is our favorite soundtrack game.
Yeah, Day and Night Cycle. It'd be nice adding actually an upstairs that we can walk through.
Yeah, that's true.
Go to the bedroom. Find something up there.
Nancy has a second floor to the cabin and nothing ever happens.
Yeah, don't make it just be like a, do you want to go tonight, with a poem.
This game did not have the poem, but that is a good segue into the number 1 pick. So first of all, just to reiterate, Ghost Dogs, if you said pick a game to get fully remastered, I say Ghost Dogs Moonlake.
I probably would too.
But for reasons, it's gonna have to go to number 1. The game that does include a poem when you switch from day to night.
That's right.
Stay tuned for danger.
So for those that don't know, you can't play Stay Tuned for Danger anymore.
No, you can't.
Unless you go through an obstacle course of bullshit.
Unlike Ransom of the Seven Ships, which was recently discontinued from digital downloads, you can still find Ransom of the Seven Ships at occasional retailers. You can buy copies of it off Amazon easily. Stay Tuned for Danger is not so easy to find. This is game number 2. They discontinued support for game number 2 and game number 1. The difference is that they remade game number 1, so you can still buy the remastered, and then you're not missing much. Game number 2, however, you are out of luck. This is easily the most inaccessible Nancy Drew game next to the original Secrets Can Kill.
So let's just imagine that it is accessible and playable today. What do we want to change? First I want to acknowledge I really like the suspect count in this game, and I like almost all the suspects except for Millie, but there are some major things that need to be changed, one of them also being Millie.
Yeah, so this game has like 6 suspects, doesn't it?
Yeah.
crazy for a game this early. And some of that is a stretch because...
So one of them we wanted to talk about is bringing Bill Pappas to be a real suspect in the game.
Yes.
He can come in after the stage light incident with Rick, but for goodness sakes, he's a character we can accuse at the end game. And we don't even get to have a face-to-face conversation with the man.
Bill Pappas is the producer of Worldwide Studios, making him a very powerful man, and it is also implied when he says, "I don't care who he is. Nobody breaks a contract with Bill Pappas. I'll kill him." it's kind of...
That was pretty good.
It's kind of on the nose. But there's a lot of moments in this game where a lot of different people have suspect on them. The ultimate culprit, which I think we've kind of given away by this point from talking about...
Dwayne Powers.
It's Dwayne Powers, who later comes back in Ransom of the Seven Ships. So I feel like you have to keep Dwayne Powers the culprit in this game. And that's okay, because he's a great culprit. I love him in this game.
Okay, I also think you need to make the game longer. You need to script more like near-death experiences with Rick.
Being such an old game, this is also a very, very short game.
Yeah, it is. It's really short. There's also a lot of glitches too. There's like there's really annoying things like the backing up. Doesn't actually work.
Huge part of why this game needs a remaster.
Yeah.
It is probably the most janky Nancy Drew. I think it's jankier than Secrets Can Kill.
Super janky. There's a lot of navigation issues, and the halls are like copy and pasted. You don't even know where you are in half of the game.
You know what really, really sucks about the navigation in this game? I think you said it but didn't emphasize it enough. Is that the U-turn button in this game does not U-turn. It makes you take a step back facing the same direction. And when you're in the hallways of Worldwide Broadcasting, which are like copy-paste of each other, it's so difficult to tell where you are. It's super disorienting. And for that reason, that alone is really why it needs a patch, if anything. Stay tuned for danger. What else? There's so much. The ending, a lot of the structure of the ending is good. There should be more mystery stuff in the meantime. I think that Rick Arlen is a great character. Maddie Jensen is a great character. Lillian Weiss is a great character, but we don't get enough of her. We just talk with her like once a day so that she can just like say mean things to Nancy.
What was I gonna say?
Taxi drivers are coded. Keep the taxi drivers.
So one thing, this game needs a task list because there's terrible like in-game sequence where there's no direction that you have a letter at your place, at Maddie's place, and you need to open it to start to go to the end game.
Yeah.
There's no direction about it.
We just need a new mechanic to get to the end game besides that.
Yeah, it's just a very outdated game, but it doesn't stop it from being good, which is why it's so upsetting. It's like, please just fix the game from a few of these like game-breaking things.
We said at the beginning, not all these games are bad games on our list. This is not a bad game.
No, it's not.
If you haven't played Stay Tuned for Danger, I would recommend searching a YouTube video on how to install it, because it's a very, very long and drawn-out process, but you can still play it today on Windows 10.
Anything else we're missing?
I think
we want to change anything about Dwayne's
more locations.
Apartment.
Dwayne's apartment is a great location. I think that more locations
Did we like
are
the
due.
taxi system?
The taxis are good, but we need to be able to use them to go to more places. I think Central Park would be a nice addition to this game.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
It'd be a great palette cleanser of all the gray, lifeless corporate stuff in Worldwide Broadcasting. Worldwide Broadcasting could have an elevator that could take you up to like the offices where you actually meet Bill Pappas later in the game. There's so much content.
You could try to throw some suspicion on Ralph, or at least make Ralph a character that you can talk to more, the security guard.
I think one thing that could be really interesting. We just talk about how Rick Arlen is the star of Light of Our Love, but Worldwide Broadcasting produces way more things than Light of Our Love. So maybe when Nancy starts just looking into this weird intern, Owen Spader, who keeps on appearing on the security camera at weird times, she starts to look through different sets of different film projects and just winds up in really weird places. Like, what if she finds a ghost town set that's of like cardboard cutouts of a western town and has to solve puzzles there, or a different set that's of like a boat in a giant fish tank and they're trying to make a movie that's on the ocean or something.
That's true. The studio itself was a bit small, I guess.
It's literally just one manufactured sitcom room that is basically just a cardboard cutout version of Aunt Eloise's house from the first game. It's just like a reference almost to Secrets Can Kill. So in that regard, I totally think Stay Tuned for Danger is a great setting that needed more work and was honestly maybe in some ways too ambitious for game number 2.
Oh, and we forgot they need to remove those horrible picture frames.
Oh, yes.
With real people pasted on the animated bodies. It's just every suspect in this game looks extremely janky, and the lip syncing is really bad in all of them.
Secrets Can Kill had 2D animated cartoon characters. This game did not. This was their first foray into CG
Yeah.
3D character models, and it did not hit.
No, it did not.
They look goofily bad.
It's just the bad thing is that, like, I love the game, but I could never recommend it.
Oh, and the prop room is to be fixed. The prop room is a cluttered mess.
Yeah, it's
with over 100 interactive screens.
God.
But yeah, I think that on the whole, I don't think many people are going to disagree with us that Staging for Danger deserves a remake more than the rest. But is it the game that needs it most? So let us know what you think.
Yeah, I'm curious if you guys think we missed anything glaring on this list.
I don't think so, but I hope not.
Yeah, let us know what you think. If out of the games we listed, which would you like to see the most?
Yeah, to be honest, this could have been a top 5 list, but there are some things about our 10 through 6 spots that we do think need a fair shake at remaking. It is a little ridiculous, I know, to suggest that they remake the most recent game, but let's be honest, they need to remake the most recent game.
Yes, they do. Just do it on the old engine, for crying out loud.
You could make a patch of Midnight in Salem to add new content, and I would play it again. So otherwise, thank you so much for staying tuned again, everybody. Julian's only in town for this weekend, so I'm sure he'll be making more stuff in the future. Still working on that new series, because there's a lot of brainstorming that goes into it.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be a fun time. But otherwise, we hope you enjoyed this top 10. We hope that you keep the conversation going in the comments on the Discord, and let us know what you think would be the best to have remade. Who knows? Maybe our word will someday have a collective poll, and Her Interactive will churn out a second Nancy Drew remake.
I would love that.
That would be the best. I would so be an Easter egg, Mr. September on the wall.
And don't forget
to vote for Holt!
Vote for Holt.
Holt Scotto needs to come back and Ghost Dogs and like, he's not even in that game.